Today we're going to be talking about types of orders, right? We got your buy and sell by market orders. We got your buy and sell stops, which are pending orders. Your buy sell limit, which is also a pending order, right? Before we get into that though, I want to touch real quick on support and resistance, right? So take a look at this red trend line over here, right? Most of the time when price action comes up to this area or line, it sells off, right? Sells off, 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 and sells off, right? Now take a look at that one's resistance, right? So now take a look at this other area of support, right? So this green line, buys off, buys off, buys off, buys off, buys off. So that's an area of support, right? Now I want you to forward your attention to this green rectangle looking thing, right? When price action is below this green rectangle, it acts as resistance because it sells off at that area, right? It has trouble getting over that area. As you can see, it was consolidating right here. Price action decided to break this area of support at the time. This area of resistance at the time. So this area of resistance now became an area of support once price action is above it, right? So price action comes back down, acts as an area of support again, breaks through this time. So now it's acting as an area of resistance again, just like it was over here, right? Comes up, sells off, comes up, sells off, comes up, breaks through, okay? So now it's an area of support again, right? Buys off, buys off, buys off, right? So if you can understand that, it's going to be a little simpler for me to understand these types of orders for you, right? So let's go ahead and start on those. And I'm just going to go ahead and start with the pending orders, and then I'll explain the market orders, right? Because I just feel like it would be easier that way. So let's go ahead and start with limit orders, right? So limit orders, right? Limit orders, either buy limits or sell limits, right? So let's go ahead and start with buy limits. Buy limits, the reason this was a buy limit, right, was because this same area acted as an area of support in the past or resistance, right? So let's say that price action was up here, right? It just sold off at this area of resistance, right? Now, I'm looking at my charts and everything, and kind of I have a hunch that price is going to come back down to this area and buy off, right? So what would I do? I would set a buy limit order. The reason I'm setting a buy limit order is because at that moment in time, price action was up here, right? It was nowhere near this area where I wanted to buy. So when price action does come to this area, I want it to basically put me in for a buy, because whatever it is that I'm looking at, my indicators, market structure, whatever strategy I'm using, is telling me that it's going to buy off right here, right? Even though price is still up here. So I want it to basically put me into this trade once it does get to this area. That way, as you can see, when price action liquidated and did come to this area, it would have put me into this buy, and I would have been able to catch all of these pips over here, right? Or all this action over here. Same with this area. Once price action liquidated from up here, what happened? Let's say that I wanted to have it rebuy at this same area where I bought this buy limit at in the past, right? So what would I do? I would set another buy limit for this area, because price action at that moment in time is still up here. It hasn't liquidated yet, right? But if it does, I want to make sure that it puts me, if it does come back down to this area, I want to make sure it puts me into a buy, right? So I'm going to go in for a buy limit. That way, when it does touch that certain price that I have as my entry, it puts me into the buy, and I'm able to catch all this action or all these pips, right? Same goes for sell limits, right? So let's say price action is down here at the moment, right? We're consolidating, working itself, just working, right? But for some reason, I feel like price action is going to come back up to this area of resistance in the past and sell off, right? So let's say we're right here at the time, right? And I want to sell right here. Well, I would set a sell limit order because of the fact that price action is below that certain area where I'm trying to sell at. And if it were to come to this area, I want it to put me in for a sell, right? So that's why I would set a sell limit. because once price makes its way to this area where I want to sell at, it automatically puts me into a sell, and I'm able to catch all these pips right here. Same right here. Say I wanted to resell at the same area I sold right here, but price action is down here. I would set a sell limit for the same area because it lines up with market structure, support resistance, indicators, whatever it is. And it would automatically put me into a sell once price action got to this area, allowing me to catch all these pips, right? So those are limit orders. Your buy or your sell stops are a little different, right? You only use those whenever, let's say over here, right? You see price consolidating and you know that this is acting as an area of support at the time, right? Because price action is above that area, even though it's acted as an area of resistance in the past, as you can see, sell off, sell off, sell off, sell off, sell off, right? But right now, that's because, back then, that's because price action was below this area. Right now, price action is above that area, right? Knowing what I know, say I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if price action breaks through this current area of support, which once acted as resistance, I want it to go ahead and put me in for a sell, right? Because more than likely what's going to happen, if it breaks this area of support, it's going to break through with momentum, right? So, and that's exactly what it did. Broke this area of support, even though it had been resistance in the past, and broke with momentum, right? Sold off hard, right? So I would have a sell stop at this area. That way, if it did break this area of support, it would automatically put me into a trade and a sell, right? So I'd be able to catch this action, right? Let's see if I've got another example over here. So here's another example, right? Sell stop. Same thing. This was acting as resistance in the past because price action is below it, but once it does manage to get above it, it is now support, right? But knowing that, I would place a a sell stop right here. Why? Because if price breaks this resistance, this area that is now acting as resistance, but that is now acting as support, but acted as resistance in the past, then I want it to go ahead and put me in for a sell, right? Why? Because if it breaks this area of current support, which acted as resistance in the past, it should break through with momentum, right? So I want to have a sell stop right here. So once it does break through, I'm able to catch all this, right? So same goes for buy stops though. Say price action's down here consolidating, right? Comes to this area, sells off. Comes to this area again, sells off, right? So we know it's current area of resistance, right? But we also know that if it were to pass that current area of resistance, more than likely the market's going to continue to buy off, right? Depending on whatever our indicators are saying or what it is that we're looking at that moment in time. So if we already have that hunch that that's going to happen and price action's still down here, we would place a buy stop up here at that area. So once it does break that area of current resistance, it puts us into a buy, right? Us hoping that once it broke that area of resistance, it continues to buy off, right? So that's why you would set a buy stop right there. Let's see, I know I've got another example marked up somewhere real quick. If not, I can just find one off the top of my head real quick. So yeah, so let's say right here, right? Let me find one real quick. For example, right here, this area, this green rectangle has acted as an area of support in the past, right? But then it's also acted as an area of resistance. You can see sell off, buy off over here, right? And below that area now, right? So right now we're below that area. Let's say that since it's acting as a current area of resistance and price is selling off right there currently, let's say that if it were to pass that zone, I would want to set a buy stop right here. That way, once it does pass that zone, that area of current resistance, it puts me in for that buy and I'm able to basically catch all this right here, right? Because once it breaks an area of support resistance, most of the time it's going to break through with momentum, right? So again, price action was down here consolidating, but it had previously used it as an area of resistance to sell off, right? So I want to have a buy stop right here in case it doesn't sell off and it continues to buy off, right? It'll put me into the trade and I'll be able to catch all this. So that is the only difference between a buy stop and a sell stop, right? One of them, sell stop, you're hoping that once it breaks that area of support, it breaks through with momentum, and that way you get into the trade and are able to catch all of it until it basically finds a new floor, right? Same with buy stop. You're hoping that it breaks a current area of resistance, that way it breaks through with momentum and you're able to catch all that until it finds a new ceiling, right? Now, sell limits and buy limits, right? That means that price action is nowhere near that zone you're interested in, right? Because let's say price action is still down here, but you set a sell limit up here because you know this is at an area of market structure, your indicators or whatever are telling you to do that, I don't know, and you just want to sell off at this area, right? But price is still down here. You set a sell limit, that way when price gets to this area of interest, it sells off for you, right? Same with buy limit. Price action is above that area, but once it gets to that area of interest that you're looking at, you want it to buy for you, right? So you set a buy limit, okay? So that's basically sell limits, buy limits, sell stops, and buy stops in a nutshell, right? Let's go to buy by market and sell by market orders. I don't typically use those unless I know price action is about to just completely start heading in that direction. It just broke a major resistance or support, right? And I know it's just going to continue to go in that direction, either sell by market or my buy by market order was in for, right? That's the only reason I would ever use a buy or a sell by market. Because if you hop in over here in the middle or something, right? Not at a key level of support resistance, price action could head either way, right? And if it goes in the wrong direction, you automatically in drawdown, and there's just no point in that, right? So I like to basically chart up and kind of analyze and see where it is that I'm going to be taking sells and buys at. And most of my orders are pending orders because of that, right? Because once price does get to that certain sell or buy area, I've already got a buy or a sell limit waiting on it, right? Or with sell stops and buy stops, once price action passes through a certain area of support or resistance, I've either got a sell stop or a buy stop waiting on it, right? So really, that's why I don't personally use buy by markets or sell by markets. Like I said, unless I'm looking at a live chart and, for example, over here, let's say, right, it never, see this red line? It doesn't break that red line, right? Because it's a pretty strong area of resistance. It's a trend line, right? But over here, it managed to impulsively, with momentum, buy through that area, right? So I would have had a buy stop right here at this area. Once it broke through this key level of resistance, it would put me in for that buy, right? Allowing me to basically catch all this, right? So let's see. Well, I don't even know where I was going with that now. My mind just went blank. Y'all gotta remember, like, I'm not scripting any of these videos right now. This is all off the dome. I'm just trying to get these videos out so you guys can kind of get an idea of what's going on. Don't worry. I've got other stuff I'm working on right now, but I guess you could say these videos were a little rushed. But anyways, let's see. Let's go to the 1 hour real quick. I wanted to show you guys something, right? And I'll be touching more on this in my other videos, but I just want you to take a look at something, right? So this is a whole pattern right here, right? As you can see, price action would come up to this area of resistance and sell off, right? And the reason I would sell off at these areas is because check out my RSI. What's it indicating? A sell. Okay? Same with my money flow, indicating a sell. You see that? Over here, came back, price action came back to that area of resistance. And what did my RSI indicate? A sell. What did my money flow index indicate? A sell. Right? Again, price action came back up to that same area of resistance. What did my RSI indicate? A sell. It showed it was overbought, right? Remember, red overbought, green oversold. Same for this over here, right? Let's see. Okay, this area of resistance acted as an area of support in the past, right? As you can see right here, same line. RSI was indicating basically a neutral territory, so it could have really either gone either way on the RSI. It wasn't showing overbought or underbought, right, at the time. My money flow was showing buy, though, nearing a buy, and RSI was above the simple moving average, which is this yellow line, right? And at the time, it came down to an area of market structure of support. So that would have indicated a buy, and that's exactly why it bought off right here, right? But back to this current pattern we're in, as you can see, gold just recently broke out of this resistance area, which is this red square looking thing. You see, it sold off in the past at that area. And it recently broke through our current trends resistance as well. So let's just give you an example, right? We've seen that it's came up to this resistance on this trend multiple times and sold off, right? So us knowing that, what would we set above this resistance line, right? We would set a buy stop. Why? Because once it breaks this resistance, what's it going to do? Continue to buy off, right? Or at least that's what we expect, right? So right here, we would have set a buy stop right above this area of resistance. It would have automatically put us in for a buy, right? And right now we'd be in profit, right? Not saying it's not going to come back down and retest this same area of resistance, but I'm just saying we would be in the trade right now and we'd be in profit, okay? This would have been a buy stop, right? Now over here, every time it came to this resistance line, it sold off, right? And our indicators showed us the same thing, right? Now, it would come down to this green level of support right here on our pattern. Let's see, right here. It bought off, broke through. It was like a pump fake on these right here, right? Because what happened? People probably had, if you were using the same logic I just used over here, you had sell stops over here, right? Not saying you should have, but I'm saying some people probably had sell stops below this green support trend line. And what did it do? It broke through with momentum. They would have caught money. They would have definitely made money, right? But if they weren't there or they didn't have a take profit set or assigned already, then eventually they would have started losing money, right? And that's a whole nother video. I'm not even going to go into that right now, but I just want to show you these certain areas, how it respected this area of resistance right here and support over here, right? And kind of how my indicators come into play, right? Let's see. Although that is for a whole nother video, I just kind of wanted to touch on it real quick so you kind of had an idea of how this works. But over here, I had one more example for this video, right? So this is a potential sell limit if everything lines up, right? When I say everything lines up, I mean my indicators line up at that given moment in time. And I mean, it lines up as a resistance, right? Because in the past, it's used it as support over here, but mostly used it as resistance in the past, right? As you can see, it tends to sell off at that area, right? See? You see, and you see, right? So market structure is simple. And once you understand market structure, all this gets so much easier, right? But knowing that it's sold, it usually sells off at this area, right? That's why I would set a sell limit at this area as long as all my indicators and everything's lining up, right? At that time, right? But I mean, yeah, this is a perfect area for a sell limit. I'm not telling you to do it because I'm no financial advisor or anything. But just based off what I'm looking at, this would be a good area to place a sell limit, right? Why? Because as long as once it gets to this area, your indicators and everything line up, then it's basically a guaranteed sell because it will come, price action will come to this area, sell off, and go retest somewhere else, right? Now, in case it doesn't sell off, that's where basically you have a stop limit. And like I said, that's a whole other video because not every trade is going to hit. You know, we're just basically, it's a probability thing in a way. We're just positioning ourselves with educated guesses in a way, if you could say. But an educated guess is that price action sells off right here, right? At this 1830 level. Okay? And I explained why. Because market structure, right? Price tends to come to this area and sell off. You see? Broke through with momentum. Sell off. Sell off. Sell off. So price tends to sell off at that area, right? And that's exactly why it's got potential for a sell limit, because price should come up to this area and sell off. Anyways, that's all I wanted to touch on in this video. The other videos are obviously going to keep building on this. And like I said, they're going to be a little more scripted in a way because I don't want to just be sitting here going off the dome because I might miss something, right? And I basically want to be able to provide you guys with the best mentorship I can give y'all. So just bear with me. And for right now, rewatch these videos, rewatch them, ask me questions. You should have my Telegram info, at least direct access to me, right? And we'll make it work, right? And we're going to make it work. But for right now, this is what we got to work with, and that's it for this video.